2 weeks ago in Colorado, it was Scott Dixon's day.
Scott Dixon, second win of the season.
But it was Sam Hornish Jr. who displayed his championship colors, slicing his way through traffic.
Still can't say enough about Sam Hornish Jr.
And Chevrolet was once again on the prowl.
And he goes around the Baron. Hornish gets the Baron.
Tonight, the hot lights of Richmond's three-quarter-mile bull ring summon the world's fastest drivers.
And there's the checkered flag for Sam Hornish Jr.
A year ago, Hornish won here in the heat. But this time around, others have victory plans of their own. Southern hospitality comes calling as the IndyCars challenge the shortest circuit of the season. The heat is on in 5 minutes.
Drivers, start your engines!
And with that command, 22 cars come to life with 22 drivers wondering what their fate will be on the shortest and most physically demanding track in the IRL IndyCar Series. ESPN Speed World welcomes you to the SunTrust Indy Challenge at Richmond International Raceway. Hi everyone, and I'm Bob Jenkins. Most of you probably saw your first race at your local track. It's probably a short track, and there was action from beginning to end. Good old Saturday night short track racing. And that's exactly what we have for you here tonight. The Indy Racing League on a three-quarter-mile racetrack laps at 17 seconds, speeds at 160 miles an hour. The fans say they love it, and believe it or not, the drivers say they love it also. Here are the 22 who are about to go green.
Scott Dixon, car number 9.
Sarah Fisher, car number 23.
Sam Hornish Jr., car number 4.
Tony Kanaan, car number 11.
Greg Ray, car number 13.
Gilles de Ferron, car number 6.
Philippe Jaffoine, car number 21.
Brian Herta, car number 27.
Vitor Mira, car number 2. Elio Castroneves, car number 3.
Dan Weldon, car number 26. Buddy Rice, car number 52.
Tom Schechter, car number 10.
Kenny Brack, car number 15. Robbie Buell, car 24. Alan Tuck Jr., car number 31. Scott Sharp, car number 8.
Roger Yasukawa, number 55.
Jacques Lazier, car number 5. Buddy Lazier, car number 91.
AJ 44th, car number 14.
Takaki, car number 12.
Three-time Indy 500 winner Johnny Rutherford is behind the wheel of the Chevy Corvette pace car as the field gets assembled. Ready to call the action, Paul Page and Scott Goodyear, who in a Grand Am Series event moved from third place to the inside of turn number 1, inside of Didier Tays, took the late lead with 2 laps to go and went on to win at Watkins Glen. Congratulations, Scott.
Oh yeah, Scott proved he still has it. Congratulations, but it felt good.
Oh, you know, when you learn to drive a race car, it's sort of like riding a bike. I guess you never forget. We had a lot of fun.
Now, when they talk about this racetrack, 3/4 of a mile long, 2 words come up: fun and fatigue. It's a difficult track. You're constantly on it, and you can't afford a mistake.
Paul, one of the toughest tracks that we drive. They're on the brakes, they're on the gas, balance of the car, so very important. The drivers know that they have to last 250 laps here tonight. It's going to be an action-packed facility.
Now, the loudest cheers in qualifying came when this driver, Sarah Fisher, qualified onto the front row. Third of her career, and Scott's on the radio with her.
Sarah, twice in the front row, even here at Richmond. Why do you do so well here?
I don't know, Scott. It's a short track, and I grew up on the sprint cars and midgets, so this just reminds me of old days. But we'll see. We got some tricky rubber to start on here, so we'll see how the start's going to play off.
Well, I hope you can turn your short track experience into a victory tonight. Good luck.
Speaking of fatigue, let's go down to Jackaroo.
Well, between now and victory lane, when a driver pulls in here, they will have lost 1.5 gallons of fluid. That's the toll physically that is taken on these drivers. There's no halftime for these drivers to get an intravenous shot. There's no opportunity for anything, Gary Gerald, other than to go flat out at 160 miles an hour for over 1,000 turns.
And Jack, they were doing that last night in the final practice, but unfortunately there were 4 significant incidents. Tori Kataki has to go to a backup car. He's at the back of the pack. But for Sarah Fisher, Robbie Buell, and Sam Hornish, they're in untested but repaired cars. And for you Chevy fans, keep an eye on Sarah outside in row number 1, inside row number 2 for Hornish. A lot on the line for them, Paul.
And the points fight's one of them. In that fight, Tony Kanaan has now held the lead since the Indy 500. Bull skidder Scott Dixon fell from first to 8th, but is back now in second, and there's a 3-way tie for third. They say it's like flying a fighter indoors. In 3/4 of a mile, the IRL is 50 miles an hour faster than Cup. Stories we're going to be watching. Defending champ was hot at Pikes Peak. He ran from 18th to 5th. Can he do it again? Sarah Fisher's sprint and midget background may pay off here. Driving 3/4 of a mile circle is tough on body and car, and 10 of the 22 have never started here. 7 cars are carrying onboard cameras, including defending champion Hornish, pole sitter Dixon, and points leader Tony Kanaan. The field is set on this 850-foot backstretch. Yeah, this thing is small, but it's fast and it's furious. Green flag goes to Dixon. Kanaan in that green car tries to move up into second place and gets it done. Sarah Fisher stays high in her yellow and blue car. Dixon pulls out while DeFerrin drops into third place. On board with Sam Hornish.
Remember, Paul, both Sarah and Sam, both in repaired cars. You can see Sarah's car right now. I tell you, those tires are touching. Both of these repaired cars are just trying to get a feel for them.
3 wide, give her.
Whoa, that was close, but you see down on the inside, Greg Ray. Greg Ray made a big move, so did Thomas Schechter. Now Sam Hornish tries to come back at him. He gets back around Schechter. Sarah fades a little further back.
This is like going to work in the morning on the freeway, but these guys are doing 165 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway, getting on the brakes and then trying to accelerate. This is one of the only tracks that we actually have to push the accelerator on from a slow speed in the middle of the turn.
That's the 10 car, Thomas Schechter. Went up to 6th after starting 13th, now faded. But he's still trying to catch Hornish, and Hornish is trying to catch Greg Ray, who has had a great weekend here.
Listen to the ride when we get on camera next time. You'll hear them get off the gas, onto the brakes, and back on the power, accelerating out of the turns.
Dixon Kanaan. We'll show you how they've moved in these first couple of laps. Schechter was the big move, but he brought Brett and Unser Jr. with him. Of course, Felipe Giafone, look at that. Fell 7 places, and Sarah Fisher, we showed you. She fell backwards, but that was probably a little bit of patience as well on board with Greg Ray. Ray's currently 4th. Everybody's saying that here, where driver skill and handling are at a premium and power isn't nearly as important, that it's going to be a great equalizer in favor of Chevrolet as opposed to Toyota or Honda. There is some concern among the drivers about buildup of rubber on the track from a previous race. Jackaroo?
Well, you heard Sarah Fisher refer to the fact that there may be some rubber on the outside of the racetrack they would be concerned about. That was a Silver Crown race held earlier today. They ran 100 miles, laid down a lot of rubber. Most of the crew chiefs and the drivers that I talked to before the start of the race said discretion was going to be the better part of valor. Patience, at least for the first 50 laps. Then they'll see what the conditions are, and they'll let their charges go.
Battle for 9th place now. On the right-hand side, that blue and white car, number 27. That's Brian Herta. Dario Franchitti decided to go and get his back surgery done and be able to rest over the winter. And so Brian Herta gets the nod for the ride there. Unser Jr. is closed up and then suddenly fell back away from him.
Paul, when I spoke to Brian, he said, you know, I can't get used to this track, but after a couple of times of being out there, he came back and said, I think I like this. It's sort of strange to have Indy cars on this type of track, 3/4 of a mile, but they all say it's a lot of fun.
Now we're talking to Scott Dixon, the current leader, a guy who's never driven here. He's tested here. There he is. And, you know, at first he thought, whoa, this can't be a car, track for this size car. And then after he got some tests on it, he said, you know, this is really fun. So Scott Dixon out in front, followed by Kanan, Jill DeFer in his third, and Greg Ray with some great moves, including getting very close with Sarah Fisher is in fourth. Let's go behind the leader with Bob.
And Dixon's target Chip Ganassi teammate Thomas Schechter has moved up to 6th position from his start of 10th. He has been turning laps just as fast as anybody else out there. Last year here at Richmond, he started in 18th position and drove all the way up to 4th. And it looks like that Thomas Schechter, despite his lack of experience on a track this size, likes this facility here at Richmond.
Yeah, I think Thomas Schechter likes it any time that he can get in and fight with somebody, but so does his teammate, Scott Dixon.
And Paul, this is the first weekend that Scott Dixon's pit is separated from that of his teammate, Thomas Schechter. I talked to Chip Ganassi. He said we didn't want to create a problem for Scott Dixon and the fact that he's so high up in the points. Keep in mind, this car has led every lap, has been the fastest car since it hit the track in the first testing session, Bob.
And there's the position, first through third, with Dixon, the number 9, out in front. Well, there's your leader, Scott Dixon, and already he's begun to overhaul slower traffic, including just in front of him, Sarah Fisher. Buddy Lazier's already been put a lap down, and remember, he led 224 of the 250 laps 2 years ago, but Sarah had to move over and had some problems. Gary?
They were very concerned about that rubber from the Silver Crown race. Now the car, Sarah reports, has gone extremely loose. She's got handling problems. She's just gone down a lap to our race leader.
That loose that they talk about, Paul, is when the back end of the car wants to start bringing itself around, wants to slide out from underneath you. What she needs right now is looking for is a yellow so she can get in and replace the tires and make some adjustments to the car.
And so the entire front of the field comes around Sarah. Dixon, Kanan, DeFer, Ray, Castroneves, and Hornish Jr. have all been working pretty hard on one another in the past couple of laps. Though right now they've strung out single file. That number 4 yellow Pennzoil car, that of course is Hornish. And he's now beginning to close back down on Elio Castroneves, the red and white car just ahead of him. But take a look at speeds at the line for you. 150 miles an hour on a 3/4 mile. Oh, yeah.
Now remember, Paul, that's with a full fuel load, 35 gallons of fuel, about 280 gallons of fuel these cars start off with. They'll burn that off. The car will get lighter, it will get faster as the race goes on. You see that sweeping line everybody takes down the front stretch right now. There's not really a straight part of this racetrack except with that maybe about 860 feet on the back stretch. These guys are turning most of the lap.
You got a glimpse back through the rear wing of Greg Ray's Grimspa car. He's not had a top 5 finish since his win in Atlanta in April of 2001. And of course, right now, he's running in 4th place.
The only G-Force Honda that's out there right now, the only combination with that chassis and engine. They've done a great job, and that's one thing you have to think about. Not a whole lot of information coming from other teams about car setup. Looks like Scott Sharp is starting to go off the pace there, just a small amount.
You're looking back from Scott Sharp's Delphi car.
You can hear the radio information there right now coming from the spotter telling them somebody's coming inside. Here comes Kanan looking at the inside of Sharp. Now Sharp's got a problem with his car. Fast driver, he's just off the pace a little bit. You can hear him squeezing the throttle when we were on board, just gently getting on the gas. He's not very happy with the car. The other guys right now, their cars are hooked up. The balance is fine. A lot of grip, as you can see with Sam Hornish right now, just around the outside like he did at Pikes Peak the other week. These guys are happy with their car.
Hornish tries to the outside of Castroneves, then he closes in very quickly on him. But Castroneves holds him off.
And Paul, that's one of the things about this racetrack right now. Guys are on the brakes right now, and then back on the gas. There's a lot of give and go, just like being in the freeway. Man, they're getting close.
This time Hornish may actually have him. Nope. Once again, Elio Castroneves is able to keep the car down on the inside.
You got to rely on that neighbor of yours right now. You got to make sure he's giving you some space. He knows he's on the outside. He's hearing from the spotter. Sam's fighting with his car a little bit. There's a lot of bumps there. In turns 1 and 2, you can see him fighting the steering wheel. Then he's got to try and get back on the gas.
And Sam Hornish's car was, well, that time he had to get way out of it.
Now he's up in the marbles there, Paul. That's getting all that stuff on that right front tire right now. Be another lap or two before he can get himself back up to speed.
We look at the Firestone telemetry for Sam Hornish Jr. as he tries to get it back up to speed. That little venture up toward the wall cost him quite a few positions, went down to 8.
You see the G-loads right there. Going into the turn, he should be seeing upwards of 4, a spike of over 4, but right now, no grip from the car. And so he's always all down to 3.6 Gs.
And looking back, you're getting another good view of the points leader, Tony Kanaan, his new Hulk car. And on the inside, here comes DeFerrin, here comes Catherine Evans on the high side.
What a great shot right there, side by side. Remember, that's 165 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour going into the turn. Now Sharp's hanging on. He's just trying to wait for that yellow that we talked about that Sarah's waiting for right now, trying to not get too far down, but he's just got no grip. You can see people pulling out and passing him at will going down the backstretch.
Dixon, DeFerrin, Catherine Evans, 1, 2, 3. Here's a shot you only see in the IRL. Wow, is that cool? Now it's really heating up at the front. They go 3 wide. Hornish is trying to get back into this fight.
Good momentum off of 4. Now looking on the inside of Sharp. Hornish in that number 4 yellow Pennzoil car. Remember, he was so fast last week, as mentioned a second ago. Watch for these guys to be very competitive, even with that Chevrolet, Paul, at the end of this race.
Dixon, DeFerrin, Catherine Evans, followed by Kanaan, Ray, Hornish Jr., and then Schechter. As Schechter, after taking that wide berth, is back trying to catch the leaders once again. But Dixon seems uncatchable in his target, Chip Ganassi, number 9. The New Zealander is looking so very, very good. A guy that likes his video games, loves his water sports, and is definitely a future champion. They're averaging 148.7 miles an hour. Sam Hornish has moved into 3rd place now while we were away. Scott Dixon remains the leader. DeFerrin sits in 2nd place. Tony Kanaan is now faded back to 5th. Sarah Fisher came in and not only changed tires and refueled, but made some pretty massive aero changes.
How intense is this racing, Paul Page? Scott Dixon got on the radio about 15 laps ago and told his crew, stop talking on the radio.
Yellow.
Vitor Mira.
One of the guys who has no time on this track. Very racy.
There again, coming out of turn 2. We talked about that before, the bumps in turn 2, trying to put the power down. We saw all those crashes last night, Paul, in warm-up, all coming out of turn 2.
Vitor Mira, you heard him on the radio. He said that he's okay. And you can see him looking around. Imagine you feel pretty precarious out there until everybody gets slowed down.
Absolutely. Steering wheel comes off, and that's a notice to everybody that he's all right. As we watch right now, he's high coming off of the turn, 1-2 combination. No grip up there, Paul, and it takes him right into the wall.
Yeah, whatever happened to him happened well before that. And he got hard into the wall with the right side, but fortunately, the car helped him. This is the onboard.
Now watch, here he comes, coming out of 4. See, you can twitch with the wheel right there. The car's already loose. Up to top gear. Come down to the turn. Getting in there. Watch his hands now. He's high because he's got somebody below him, and he's up just behind the marbles. And that's what ends up happening. See that right front? Watch that absorption right there. You think about those guys, 6-way safety harness and a crash helmet. Can't figure why anybody wouldn't wear their safety harness in a car.
That was Dan Weldon, who was down low while Mira tried to go around. Now, each broadcast will answer your internet question about the IRL IndyCar Series. Here's one from Nikki in Bloomington. How many points is a victory in the IRL IndyCar Series race worth? And the answer, we'll not just give you first place, that's worth 50. 2 bonus points for leading the most laps. No points for qualifying, but there's the entire rundown. And Here's the way they are. After 6 of the 16 races in the series, Tony Kanaan, who's held on to the lead for 3 races now. And look at that 3-way tie down there. So 50 points. Log on to ESPN.com, keyword IRL, and submit your question, which we'll try and answer during the next race. Let's go down to Jackaroo. We're looking for a stop.
Yeah, because at first the leader was not going to pit. Then Scott Dixon had a quick conversation. They said that he liked the way the car was operated. They're not going to make any changes, Paul, but I think that this is a precautionary pit stop strictly to take a look at the tire wear. He likes the way the car feels there, Gary.
Sam Hornish has indicated his car is good, but they're going to go down on tire pressures on all 4 corners. Keep in mind, this car crashed while he was running that spectacular high line in the final practice last night. They changed everything except the under tray, the left side pod, the rear wing. Everything else new on this car after that incident, and boy, has it responded.
And there is some concern from Helio Castro Neves. He radioed into his crew, Gary, that he saw some sparks in his rearview mirror from beneath his Marlboro Team Penske car. They very calmly told him, we will check it when we pit. That coming up next.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably more the product of the fact that it's dark already, even with the lights on. A lot of stuff does show up. It's just as you can see the exhaust flame. Now, this weekend, night racing returns to St. Louis. It's the NHRA 7th Annual Sears Craftsman Nationals from Gateway International Raceway. The weekend kicks off as ESPN brings you qualifying tonight at 10 Eastern. Then tomorrow, ESPN has early round coverage at 5 Eastern. And finally, switch back over to ESPN2 for final round coverage at 9 Eastern. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, the signal has gone out that the pits are now open, and Scott Dixon and most of the front runners are going to answer it. You see where the pit positions are of some of the key players, Hornish, Dixon, and Jill DeFerrin. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And here comes Sam Hornish. He's kind of at mid-pits. The number 4. You should see all of the rubber on the front nose of this car. Tire pressure's down all the way around. It looks routine. He's clear. Let's go to Dixon. Oh, look out. We got a problem. Hornish, Jack, went into Giafone. Hornish is rolling toward the nose of the wall. Contact with Giafone's number 21 coming in.
Quick stop. He got out. Now Takagi's trying to get out around him.
Good. Watch to the right. Stay low.
So what happened there, we'll have to do a little investigating on. Good catch, Gary. And you're right. Look at that car.
All that rubber comes from that Silver Crown race we talked about before. Look at the rubber on the car. Also the rubber I noticed when they came in on the tires. Now when he leaves, right there you see Giafone coming in. Pennzoil team should have seen that. You have to know where your neighbors are up and down pit road. They should have held him just for one more second. He would have a clean getaway.
That's a third race in a row that you've had a problem in the pits. Giafone had a problem when he was trying to get out at Pikes Peak.
With Scheckter.
And Scheckter was coming in.
Tight confines here. Remember, when you open the pits, everybody wants to come in. They want to pit underneath yellow, Paul. That way you will not go down a lap underneath a green flag situation. They come in to try and get all the service work they can done. Now watch Sam. He'll actually start to use the wheel when he gets in the front stretch to see that the steering wheel is still aligned for him after that contact.
First glance, at least on Hornich's car, it looks none the worse for wear. We'll be back.
Yesterday here at Richmond International Raceway, a ticket not only got to see qualifying for the IRL Series, but a free autograph session that was held under the Turn 1 grandstand. All the IRL drivers came to sign autographs for the fans, and the fans turned out in droves to see their favorite driver and get their signature. A good time was had by all, even some posing for pictures here at Richmond. Here's Jackaroo.
Tim Cindric is calling the shots for Helio Castro Neves. Tim, Helio thought he saw some sparks under the car. You looked at it during that pit stop.
Yeah, we can see we had some damage to the rear tire, and actually it was the front. Looked like we ran over a drive shaft from that car, but I think everything's okay. It looks fine here.
Gary?
John Barnes, you had Sam come in. You looked over the suspension. What was the determination?
Well, not the 21 car. When the 21 car shoved over in front of us there coming into pits, we couldn't see anything wrong. It looks like the steering might have jumped the tooth inside, but Should be okay.
What do you tell your driver how to stay cool and try to get back what he worked so hard to earn?
Well, we'll just have to see what we can do. He's a patient kid. He knows it's all about patience here. So we'll see how the chassis is.
Boy, you talk about patience at this place, and you capitalize it, italicize it, Bob.
And it will be interesting to see him move up through traffic. He's going to restart in 15th position, and we'll see how quickly he moves up. There, meanwhile, is Felipe Giaffoni as he gets ready for the restart here. We'll go back to racing on lap number 69. The order is Dixon, DeFerrin, Castroneves, Kanaan, and Schechter in that order. Al Unser Jr. is running 6th, and there you can see how the positions changed during the most recent round of pit stops. Paul?
Yeah, Kenny Brett came into the pits at 8th, out in 5th, but they didn't get the left rear on, and so he had to come back down, so it all went for naught. They're lined up now behind Scott Dixon, DeFerrin, Castroneves, Kanaan, and Schechter, top 5. A.J. Foyt the 4th is in the restart order, but, oh, we got a car in trouble right away. And they keep the yellow out. That's Schechter.
No, he's still under power, Paul, so
yeah.
Possibly just not a gear selection. Maybe the gear didn't go in place for him, but he certainly didn't have any drive when they went to green, so let's watch this.
Oh, look at it here.
Getting
There's
squeezed
Schechter down on the inside.
Yep, just a little bit loose. What a catch. Look at that. And hits the right front of Al Unser Jr. What a great piece of driving. Remember, he's up in the marbles right there, and the thing's sliding along at probably 65 miles an hour, the same speed you and I go to the office in the morning.
They are calling in Thomas Schechter to look at the front end of that car, guys.
Yeah, they're going to have to look at Little Al and at Thomas Schechter. Make sure that everything is good on both cars. I'm looking, and I don't see anything obvious on the front wings, except whenever he gives it a good shake like that, you see a puff off of the right front. Yeah, there's Unser Jr. They can't let that part end up on the track, so they're going to have to do something with that car. They tried to start it, couldn't get it done. Schechter gets pinched down. Touches Al Unser Jr. Sunday night, ESPN returns to the Big Apple as Derek Jeter and the New York Yankees host Cliff Floyd and the Mets in an unmatched crosstown rivalry. Mets-Yankees is also available on ESPN HD, ESPN's new high-definition nationwide service. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Nextel at 8 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. They're waiting for Unser Jr. right now. Going to put a new wing on him. Remember, he was sitting in 5th place, ready for that restart. So
watch your speed.
It's going to be costly.
Well, at least it's under yellow for him, Paul, so he's not going to have to go in the pits under a green situation when the speed is higher on the racetrack for all the cars that are there. So he gets that new front wing. That new front wing is already preset.
And Scott, let me interrupt you for a second. They are going to pull it off strictly because the end fence was bent on the right-hand side. These cars are designed so that you can make those changes as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
likewise now for the Thomas Schechter machine, their front nose has got a problem, but they cannot get the nose off the target mount. They are going to spend a little bit more time than Al Unser Jr. did.
Sam Hornish, you also saw him in. Oh, now they're getting desperate down there. Hornish is already away.
Well, they're trying to beat the pace car out, Paul. If that pace car comes by in the front stretch and he's not out of pit lane, he goes down a lap. And there's a pace car on our left. So the pit crew guys are watching that and grabbed one of his crew members and said, man, he'll come back in next lap to do that. We just got to get out.
That's exactly what they did. They're going to send him back out so he doesn't go down the lap, and then they'll make the exchange on this nose piece, which, by the way, guys, runs about $12,000.
And the change, that way, the good change that we saw for Unser Jr. was a 13-second change of the front nose. We'll be back.
Al Jr., Scott Goodyear up in the booth. What a great run up to 5th. A little mishap there with Schechter. What's going on?
Well, we were coming on that restart, and, Schechter just lost in front of me, and I did everything I could to avoid him, but I ended up putting up my right front wing. I put a new nose on the car, but wing settings are identical to what I had before. So, the Ford Technical Special is ready to go, and we're going to come back up through these guys again.
Well, good luck. Hopefully we see you in victory circle. Bob?
We got 1 lap to go to green. By the way, Alonso Jr. has turned the fastest lap of the race at over 155.5 miles an hour. Most everybody else is running in the 153-mile-an-hour area. Paul, we're about to go back to green.
Dixon's on point. DeFerrin, Castroneves, Kanaan, Ray, Dan Weldon sits up now in 6th place. You got a glimpse of him earlier when Vitor Mira caught the wall. That was Weldon down low. Now Green's back out there. Dixon. And both the Penske cars are on the move. A.J. Foyt IV tries to get up a middle line and out of the way, let the leaders through.
Very difficult time right now, Paul. Fresh tires on for a lot of these guys. You got to get the tires built up on the pressure and the temperature to get maximum grip. These Firestone tires give a lot of grip around this racetrack, and these guys know they got to get 1 or 2 or 3 laps before they will come in.
5th place Ray, Tony Kanaan just ahead. The new Hulk colors for his car, and at the right rear of Kanaan's wing, you got a glimpse of the fact that it's hot, it's humid here, and there's a lot of pressure in that wing. A little vortice coming off the wing in the corner. I always think that's cool.
I love that. You always see that. It looks so neat. The drivers right now, I'll tell you, they'd love to see that also. There it is again.
You're back on board with Tony Kanaan now. The new Hulk-colored car. And Vitor Mira. What's the story with him, Gary?
Vitor, can you quickly tell us about the conditions and what created your problem?
Well, it was pretty early in the race. I mean, on this 54 laps, more or less. And I was trying to overtake the car in front of me. Had a couple of runs, but never finished the movement. And, well, a car behind, which was Daniel Weldon, put it inside me, kind of slided a little bit, came too hard. I went to the Marlboros and spun. That was about it.
Glad you're all right. Thank you.
The long struggle for Thomas Scheckter to finally get his nose properly back on the car was very costly. Put him 2 laps behind the race in 19th position. And the star of the show, once again, appears to be Sam Hornish. I tell you what, when it comes to handling and just raw driving, he's tough to beat.
One of the most talented guys on the racetrack. You heard them talk about dropping the tire pressures by about 1 pound. Probably looking for a little bit more overall grip. Remember, a bit of a greasy sliding track right now because of that race that we had here a little bit earlier on tonight.
Hornish, as you see, dropped to 13th when they had to do the work on his car. And look how quickly he closes on the gang ahead.
He did a driving clinic for sure at Pikes Peak. Did a great job all the way through. Now he's got Al Jr. directly right in front of him, and
that's 12th place, so that'll be a fight for position when it gets up to him.
Now remember, Al was all the way up to 5th, so his car's running well, and as Bob said, fastest lap of the race so far, and quite a contrast from Pikes Peak, where Al just didn't have a good handling car, didn't have a good weekend there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, with reference to Hornish, you heard John Barnes say patience is the key here, and it truly is. You just got to figure out some way to stay with the front, but stay out of the fight.
And frustration can set in, Paul, because as a driver, you want the car to work well, and the car will change lap after lap around this racetrack, and you have to use those cockpit adjustments to help it handle better. But frustration can set in if you're trying to get past somebody and you can't do it. As we heard from Mira, sometimes you put yourself at risk.
So while Sam Hornish tries to catch up, we'll go back up to the front of the field. And there he is, number 9, Scott Dixon, the Chip Ganassi car. Jackaroo, what's going on up there?
Well, they've told Scott Dixon to try and keep the car down low in the corners. They've seen the results of cars that have run up high. Meanwhile, Dixon is very concerned about those 2 cars. The Helio Castroneves, Gilles DeFerrin Marlboro team Penske tandem, as they begin to close, they've already begun to warn Dixon about the 2 cars, and they said, Scott, they're running just as fast as you.
Last time around, they were almost identical, laps in the low 152s. Castroneves dropped down to the high 151s. When you're looking at these 2, remember probably the easiest way to differentiate these cars, come in the camera pod up on top for DeFerrin, it's white, so is the attenuator at the back, it's red on Helio Castroneves' car. There is a report that Sam Hornish Jr. may have just brushed the wall, and we're going to go back and check it.
Well, if it isn't the case, then Scott Dixon saw it as well, because he radioed in, guys, that that's exactly what happened.
got the onboard. We'll look at it.
And right through the middle, 1 or 2, a little bit tweak with the wheel, gets it. See how loose that is? It snaps around, a very slight rub with the right front wheel. That's nothing to worry about.
It's the same kind of problem, though, that he was in earlier. He must really be running that car loose. I mean, he can drive it loose. He's good at driving it loose. But then the fatigue thing comes in. Back behind the leader, we're watching Buddy Rice, Bob Jenkins.
Right now, Buddy is the top Chevy competitor. He is running in 8th position after having started in 12th. Remember, he had a good run 2 weeks ago at Pikes Peak International Raceway where he had a top 10 finish in 9th spot. This, of course, is the Eddie Cheever-owned team running the Chevy, but right now Rice is atop the Chevy leaderboard in 8th spot.
The Red Bull Team Cheever car, Buddy Rice. And there is Dixon. And you want to look at the difference between he and Schechter. Look at the rear wing end panel. White for Schechter, the number 9 car. Red for the 10 car of Thomas Schechter. Hornish still trying to move his way up through the field. He's the last car on the lead lap right now. Currently, Hornish sits in 14th position behind the leader, Scott Dixon. We'll be back with more from Richmond.
You're watching the IRL IndyCar Series on ESPN.
And no changes at the front. Dixon, DeFerrin, Castroneves, Kanaan, and then this guy, Greg Ray. Had a good run tonight. He was fast when he unloaded.
Fast when he unloaded. That's what a driver loves to have, because then he knows he's in for a great weekend.
Let's go to Gary Terrell.
Talked with Greg Ray, and he thought that he could have won this race the last 2 years driving for other teams. Now he's got his own team. The bad fortune that plagued him the last 2 years, looking real good tonight. And his co-owner, Lee Morosic, is here for the first time to watch an IRL race. He's the man that lost 100 pounds on that trim-style product that now sponsors Greg Ray's car.
Greg Ray pretty trim himself. Dixon, DeFerrin, Castroneves. See it there is the top 3. Ray closing on Tony Kanaan. Kanaan the 11 car. And at the same time, the Penske cars are fighting for second. DeFerrin's still in front, but they're trying to get around the 91 car of Buddy Lazier. We'll take a look as they come down the front stretch at the speeds as they cross the line. Traffic run. Dixon doing really well, but look at the 27 car. That's Brian Herta. For a guy that is essentially new to this series, though a great champion and never driven here, giving it a good ride just like he did it a couple of weeks ago.
Herta doing a fill-in job right now on the Andretti Green team, and didn't even get here for that open test, one of only 2 drivers that did not get a chance to test here, and certainly he's been doing a very good job, and he's the replacement for the whole year now, so that's going to be sort of neat to see him complete the series.
Jack Arute.
When Brian Herta arrived here, Scott, he went out for the first couple of laps. He came in, he said to himself, what am I doing? He really didn't like this racetrack, and after the first practice session, a big smile broke out on Brian Herta's face. He said it reminded him a lot of his karting days. He said you can work with the car here, you can get on the gas, get off the gas. Now Brian Herta says, this is a fun racetrack to drive.
Jack, I would say that all the drivers think the same thing all the time when they come here. I remember I came here and did that first test here for the IRL, and I said this would be a fun track, and I think every driver agrees now.
We're looking at Weldon and Giafone. This is a fight for 6th place, and the past couple laps got pretty good. Dan Weldon, who is the red and white car, left side of your screen. Giafone, of course, a very familiar number 21. Purple, blue, green, fluorescent. Weldon, who wears a helmet with a beautiful, beautiful painting of King Richard the Lionhearted, a reflection of Weldon's spirit in its way. And remember, he got upside down at Indy, and as soon as I saw him after that race, I said, let me see the helmet. He said, believe me, it's not scratched. Is that a shock or what? Now back to Greg Ray. Gary Darrell.
We mentioned Lee Rossack lost 100 pounds. Your first IRL race tonight. What kind of impression are you getting here in the pits?
It's amazing. It's incredible. It's the most fantastic feeling ever. To be a part of this it's godlike. The power, the adrenaline. You gotta come out, man. Look at it, baby. Love it. Yeah.
I think he's excited.
Oh, I think he's doing okay. He's right, though. You run out of adjectives when you see this thing.
Well, you know, the race last year, Paul, you can remember that a lot of people were standing up for a lot of the race, and through a break once in a while, I peek outside, and they're doing the same thing again. They just love it here. What a great show. A 3/4-mile track, they get to see everything.
And Sam Hornish, taking a look at him. The leader's coming up. You can see him off in the distance there, so Hornish may, in fact, go a lap down here in just a moment. There's the leader.
Now, Hornish in that yellow car we see, Paul, he knows from two things. The radio contact, he says, guys, he's getting on the radio and hearing that he's got a leader coming up behind him, and he also can look in his mirrors. He does not want to go down a lap.
120 now complete. Only one car out. Vitor Mira crashed with the wall while he was trying to get around Dan Weldon. The leader, right from the get-go, has been this guy, the number 9 car, Scott Dixon, Auckland, New Zealand. Lives in Indianapolis, Indiana now, though, and loves this track.
Al Jr. Sarah Fisher. Sam Hornish. Spider-Man. Sarah Fisher.
St. Gilles de Ferran.
AJ Floyd IV. Elia. Robbie Buell. Sarah Fisher. Sarah Fisher. Tony Kanaan and Elio Castro Neves. Tony and Elio.
It's always Tony first, though. He said Tony first.
Yeah, who's your favorite IRL driver? Tony Kanaan is one of the most popular. Sarah Fisher, without question, is the favorite driver of IRL fans, but she has been struggling here. She's been trying to keep up and out of the way. Nothing's changed since we left you. It's still Dixon, DeFerrin, Castro Neves, Kanaan, Greg Ray. Behind them, Weldon and Giafone are continuing to fight with one another, and the yellows just come out, and that's A.J. Foyt the 4th.
Now, all those guys you see on the right are all the board men on there, Paul, that are all signaling to their drivers
on the
backstretch.
Yeah, backstretch.
And trust me, when they see a car coming, they take for cover.
There's Grandpa.
I just ran up here to check the temperature.
And as the IRL safety team gets there, they, of course, check to make sure that Anthony's okay. And then they take their time getting him out. Here's how he got there. Hornish was right behind him.
Looks like he's just coming off the middle of the turn. That's where those bumps are that we talk about there. You got to be so gradual on the power, applying the gas pedal down to the floor. You got 700 horsepower on those rear wheels, and sometimes they just spin and come right out from underneath you. Also, in that dirty air, that traffic we talk about there, not as much grip coming off the car as you would usually have.
You're right, boy, the board guys were all down, and down quick. Of course, the rural areas never look anywhere but upstream. So, third caution in the record book now. 131 laps are complete. Dixon is still the leader. What a streak this guy is beginning to put together. And will he be able to go flag to flag? Well, seems like that's very possible. Next Sunday, the IRL IndyCar Series returns to ABC Sports. Kanaan, Dixon, DeFerrin, Unser Jr., and Castro Neves will battle for crucial championship points on the Tri-Oval at the Kansas Speedway. Don't miss the Kansas Indy 300 next Sunday at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific on ABC Sports. There's a quiz for you. Who won, think about this, who won the first race at the Richmond Fairgrounds? It was a predecessor track, dirt track. Look at that enormous crowd, by the way. This track here seats 106,000, and it looks like at least half full. All right, what's your shot on that, Scott? Come on.
Well, we're talking a long, long time ago, Paul. I wasn't born. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Oh, give me a break. Well, I was born. I was a year old. The answer is, believe it or not, an IndyCar driver, Ted Horn, who 46, 47, 48, had 3 national championships. But once again, they're going to stop.
And Scott Dixon comes to his marks. some debate as to whether Roger Penske would call Gilles de Ferran in over weather concerns. 35 gallons of methanol for your leader. And if Scott Dixon beats the Marlboro team out, he will continue to lead this event.
Taking a look at the at-pit exit, Castroneves. Team got him around his teammate. That's going to go over really good. Giafoni with that stop gets around Weldon. And Rice moves the position forward, as does Hornet. We'll be back.
137 laps completed under yellow because of a crash involving A.J. Foyt IV, and we have had some lights go out on the backstretch, creating a rather dark spot back there. We're not sure exactly what will have to be done in that situation, but for right now we remain under caution. The leader of the race is Scott Dixon. He has led all the way. Tony Kanaan, however, is running in 4th position and doing a fine job, and Scott is able to converse with him on the radio.
Tony, Scott Goodyear in the booth. You started 4th and you're running 4th. Do you have enough to catch the leaders?
Yeah, it's going to be a long day for us here. My car is really tough on traffic, but we'll see. We need to use the lap cars to try to pass people. The ice is pretty hard, so we'll see. It's going to be a long night.
Well, good luck. Bob?
So Kanaan now remains in 4th. Giafoni is running in the 5th position as 138 laps are in the books right now. They're the top 5, and we'll be right back with more of the SunTrust Indy Challenge. Back at Richmond International Raceway, and we do have some lights that have gone out here at the track. You can see right there a light on the inside of the racetrack that shines to the surface of the track is out. In fact, there are several of them, creating a rather dark area over on the backstretch. One driver who has not had a particularly good night here is Scott Sharp, who is currently shown in 17th position, a lap down. Scott Goodyear.
Scott Sharp, Scott Goodyear in the booth. We've got a report that some lights are out around the racetrack. Is that affecting things for you guys out there tonight?
It's a little bit darker, Scott, but it's really not so bad. I mean, there's some bright lights out here. It seems like there's a little bit of shadows in between some of the lights, but it's still real well lit.
And track conditions from the Silver Crown race a little bit earlier on. We saw a lot of guys having some problems even on restarts. Is the track coming back now? Is the tires starting to get back into the groove?
Seems like it's starting to a bit, yeah. I mean, we've certainly picked up all that rubber, laying our rubber down. We're trying to make the best of this race in the Delphi car. We got a little loose early, but made a good stop. We're just trying to see if we can't get one of our laps back here.
Well, a long ways to go, so good luck.
Come on.
Bob?
So Scott Sharp continues to run in 17th. There is Dan Weldon, who's having a great race in 6th. He's a rookie and replacing the legend Michael Andretti. The young 25-year-old lives in an Indianapolis apartment and very well organized.
My house has a unique Asian flavor. It doesn't really come from me, I would say. It comes more from my girlfriend. She is very kind of artistic, and she likes to be at the forefront of fashion, even with the decor in the house. So it looks good though, I think. People say I'm a bit of a neat freak. As you can tell, I'm obviously pretty neat. I have the hangers all going the same way. The pants are all kind of hanging without creases. I even have the shoes in their original boxes. You know, I'm going to take a lot of kidding for this from Michael Andretti and Tony Kanaan. I work out because it basically makes me feel better in the car. It really makes everything in the car happen a little slower, and I'm not like out of breath at all. It just, you feel like you can drive every one of the 500 miles, for example, at the Indianapolis 500 with 110% concentration. And I think I do it more from the mental aspect than I do the physical aspect. I like the shop. From Europe, from London, I think fashion's like a big kind of part of that place. So I certainly like to go shopping for clothes, and then I like the gadgets too. I'd like to be winning races by the end of the season, but as long as I do the best job I can on every given weekend and don't make mistakes, I'll be very, very happy.
Now, Scott Dixon has led all the laps so far here tonight, 152, and he has now set a record having led 241 laps of competition. So certainly Scott Dixon has on a hot streak here at Richmond International Raceway. Well, we have drag racing coming up for you a little bit later tonight, and in fact during the entire weekend. They're in St. Louis, the NHRA 7th Annual Sears Craftsman Nationals. ESPN2 brings you qualifying tonight at 10 Eastern. Then tomorrow, ESPN has early round coverage at 5. Finally switch back to ESPN2 for final round coverage at 9 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Gary Geralds with A.J. Foyt IV. Unfortunately, we have lost Gary Gerald's mic, but as you can see, A.J. Foyt IV is in good shape after the crash on the backstretch that has resulted in this very long caution. Gary, your mic working?
Well, yes, I believe it is.
All right.
AJ, are you okay, and what happened?
Yep, I'm fine. Just, I was having a lot of fun out there and felt really comfortable, and just about 5 laps before that happened, I radioed into the crew that the car started getting a little bit loose on me, and just some cars checked on going in turn 2 behind a slower car, and I saw a chance to get by a car and kind of got on the gas a little bit too early and a little bit too quick, and it just broke loose on me.
All right, we're going green. Paul?
You saw the restart order. We're ready to go back to green flag racing. Green flag is out. They're running, and everybody is now thinking about the weather. There's a report of a thunderstorm. We got a car in trouble, and it's Greg Ray. There is a report of a fairly large thunderstorm not that far away from the racetrack and moving fairly quickly. In fact, some of the crews are talking about it on the radio, Scott.
Well, some of them were telling the drivers, even during the break, Paul, that this thunderstorm is actually coming. We'd heard a few of the drivers saying, let's get back to green, let's get going. And that's only the guys that are in second, third, and fourth. You wouldn't hear that from Dixon, but it's interesting to see how a driver takes in everything. And here we see just a power on, possibly something. He's all by himself, Greg Ray is, and actually right up on the front stretch, and maybe that 700 horsepower we talked about on cool tires, trying to get the power down, a little low on the track, getting the gas on, he just spun himself around.
Johnny Rutherford has brought the pace car back out in front of the field. Greg Ray has moved into the last position in the line.
On the gas. You heard him get on the rev limiter. That's maximum power, probably 700 horsepower to the rear wheels, and just spun it around. Great recovery, though.
And that's exactly what the driver told his crew and the crew chief, David Cripps. He said it was just cold tires. Greg Ray, very apologetic for the miscue.
And Greg Ray, as well as several others, are going to bring it in for a stop. Schechter's in, Sharp is in, Takagi is in, and yet they're giving an indication that as soon as the pace car comes off, it'll be 1 to go at the line. Pace car will rotate off the track here in just a moment.
Well, Paul, what these guys are doing is getting an extra few laps of fuel in their tank, so they're now planning that they might be able to make it all the way to the end of the race without any other stops.
So the game now is track position now with possible rain, possible race stoppage, though we don't see anything out there except an indication from the flags because the wind has picked up considerably. Now it is 1 lap to go. The pace car already off the course. Field in control of Scott Dixon, who has led every lap of this race. Pretty tense moment as the green comes out because everybody realizes the end of this thing could be at hand. Or it could go the distance. Hornish on the move inside of Weldon. Jackaroo.
Here's the skinny on pit stops. Don't look for anybody first or second. Scott Dixon and Gilles de Ferran both deciding that they will not pit. And also for Helio Castroneves in third. Neither of these 3 cars intend to come to pit road again.
Seems like that's going to be a long stretch, but okay. Report from observers that Brian Herta just brushed the turn 4 wall on the last lap. They are not going yellow for that one. Back on board with Hornish. Kenny Breck ahead of him. Battle is for 7.
Hornish has got himself all the way back up to 8th from having that miscue in the pit lane, finding himself back about 15th. Still a long time left in this race, and we saw him do that clinic we talked about earlier. Possibly we'll be able to catch these guys up front. They're setting a great pace right now, though.
Well, the caution periods helped Hornish get back onto the leader lap and into position. Of course, same thing happened to him 2 weeks ago, Pikes Peak.
Now, it'll be interesting to watch, Paul. We talked about the leaders and everybody probably not having to stop. I noticed that last segment that Dixon started to go slower the longer the run went. And both the Penske cars actually were starting to get stronger as the run went on. So it'll be interesting to see if we just go completely green here through this next segment, whether or not Dixon can hold off those two Penske cars.
Firestones have been very strong, but how you set the car up, that can make the difference in how you wear them. It's into the limiter down there at the end.
Limiter, you want the lowest gear possible coming out of the turn to get the best acceleration down the straight. Remember, only 860 feet down this back stretch right now. And this front stretch we're on right now, look how it curves. Never any time to turn straight at this racetrack.
Catherine Nevis ran the last lap at 156.7 miles an hour, fastest car of the lap. While Hornish continues to work on Dan Weldon. And there's your Firestone onboard telemetry for Hornish. Just for about 3 seconds, the only time that they have that they are not loaded up with G's, and 3.1 seems to be the top. Pretty constant G loading. Go up and take a look at Tony Kanaan now. Right behind him is Felipe Giafone. He's in 5th place. And he's been working pretty hard on Kanaan lately. Gary?
Checking with Tony Kanaan's team, Ken Green would not commit as to whether or not they could make it the 250 laps without a further stop. He waggled his hand and said it's very, very iffy. So it doesn't sound that good for the Hulkster in number 11.
Well, Gary Gerald, how iffy do you think it is for the leaders? You think that's a good call, or they're going to be close too?
I think Jack indicated that the leaders, at least first and second, look good. They think they can go.
Remember, the difference, guys, is Honda power for Kanaan, Toyota power for the front three.
And there's the point, Jack. Thank you. In fact, front three right now are Toyota. Kanaan is the first Honda. Hornish is the top Chevrolet. Leader remains New Zealander Scott Dixon, winner of the first race of the season, currently second in the point standing. Ripping those licks, it's Kenny Breck and the Subwoofers. It's gotten to be a tradition that they put a concert on in the race venue, and I'll tell you what, pretty good show, and Brian Herta got up and sang, so maybe the Subwoofers have a new vocalist as well. You're on board with Kenny Breck right here. He currently is, he's had a tough day. He's 7th. Hornish now closing on Giafone. Giafone closing on Kanaan, so Hornish was able to work his way around Weldon and still is charging for the front, while at the front it's Scott Dixon turning laps 152 plus miles an hour.
When we watch these guys, watch the lines they run. Giafone likes that low line, likes to get tucked down to the apex right there. By the yellow line, and he starts to use it on the way out. You got to make sure you take care of your neighbor on the high side, and Sam always loves that. Look how close these guys are getting at 160 miles an hour. Inches away.
Just inches away, and both of them side by side. Giafone's not giving up. They brush wheels. Giafone slows a little bit with that, but he stays in there.
Hornish won the battle. Now he's going to put his sights on Kanaan.
So Hornish to 5th. Kanaan now sits ahead of him at his target, and Hornish is already right there. Oh, shades of 2 weeks ago, Hornish is on the move.
Couple of changes coming up very shortly on that Pennzoil team, Paul. Here we go on the outside, that outside line again.
Hornish has been working this line. Again, stays side by side with Kanaan, and finally Kanaan has to give it up. Hornish goes forward. That line's working great. How's he able to do that?
It's just pure grip and talent, Paul. You put all that together in a package. The car is set up by Andy Brown and the Pennzoil team. You guys have done a great job. He likes to run that outside line. He's very confident with it. A lot of drivers say, you know something, I'm not comfortable up there. I'd rather run it low. But when you get into a traffic situation, especially on a tight track like this or Pikes Peak 2 weeks ago, if you can run where somebody can't, you're going to have an open line. You're going to be able to pass people.
And Hornish is pretty amazing. Very fast hands. Is able to keep the car under control when I suspect a lot of other guys could not. Jack?
Paul, we know what drivers like to do on their time off. One of our crew members like Kevin Blanche. We've told you before he's an amateur bass fisherman. Well, he went out and competed in a bass fishing tournament. He finished 11th. He said, that's the best I've ever done. His lifelong ambition to fish in the Bassmaster someday. Right now, I think his day-long ambition tonight would be to take this car with Sam Hornish to victory lane.
Hornish was a lap behind at 14th. Sitting up there in 4th place now. Since the last restart, we want to show you the cars on the move. Hornish, still the name. And as we cross the 188th lap, the leader, Dixon, has led the first 188, led right from the green, and that beats Buddy Lazier's record of 187 straight leading laps set here 2 years ago. Robbie Buell now the target, the Purex car down on the inside.
We talked about the momentum on the outside right now. You see the momentum that he's able to keep up on the outside line. That's the key. That's the secret here. Everybody's slowing down mid-turn, and here he goes, just driving around people like they're going about 5 or 10 miles an hour slower. We don't choose the inside too, I guess, won't we?
Now these camera shots are relayed from the car to a helicopter. It's about 3,000 feet above the track. That then bounces the signal back down to our control truck. Then they bounce it back up the satellite. And here's the key in that link. The helicopter pilot above the track is saying they're starting to get a little rain.
Well, that information probably will be actually shown to all the drivers, or told to all the drivers rather, because a lot of these teams actually have the televisions in their pit box. So there's somebody from the team listening to our telecast, and that information will be actually passed along to the drivers.
Scott, here's one thing that's very interesting. Throughout all the talk about rain, a lot of the teams have told their drivers, no one has told Scott Dixon from the Team Target team about any impending rain. They've just told him to keep running out front.
You got a good view of the relationship all the way back to Hornish from the leader, Scott Dixon. He's having a great run here today. Let's take you back to the race, Pikes Peak at Colorado Springs. Look at this as he just carved his way neatly through the field, inside, outside. He could put the car anywhere he wanted, and he was absolutely fearless. The defending champion of the race, defending champion of the series. He's down on horsepower, but he is not down on spirit. Sam Hornish will be back.
All of a sudden, here at Richmond International Raceway, it has begun to rain. Our helicopter spotted some and felt some raindrops on the chopper from 3,000 feet just moments ago, and now that rain is definitely hitting the ground. The caution is out. 200 of the 250 laps are complete, with Scott Dixon in the lead. Jack?
Well, my call is sitting here calling the race for the leader, Scott Dixon, and most times when a leader's out past the halfway mark, he says, oh, it's raining so bad, we want to stop this thing. What's Scott's position?
Well, we were working on the lights for a while there too, Jack. He's happy to be racing tonight. Car's running great, and we're...
What has turned this team around? I mean, I know you had the win early on, but now you have totally dominated. You've led so many laps in the last 2 races.
Well, I think both Thomas and Scott have. Thomas is showing tonight how good our team is, and we were in the IRL last year with Jeff Ward. We're in the IRL this year with 2 guys, and we got a lot of momentum going, and we got great drivers and a great team.
Gary, 289 consecutive laps led by this guy's driver, Scott Dixon.
We are back at Richmond International Raceway, and we have indeed suffered a bit of a power hit here with the lightning coming down and the rain coming down. So we apologize for that interruption from our transmission here at Richmond. The rain does continue to come down. In fact, it's coming down a little bit harder, but the cars remain on the racetrack. Hopefully the shower is going to move a little bit away from the track and we can indeed get this race underway. We're watching the flag stand to see if they are indeed going to throw the checkered or the red flag, but they are not at the moment. The caution remains out of the racetrack and the cars continue to circle around this 3/4 mile track at about 48 miles an hour. Only one leader in this event, and that is Scott Dixon, who has led all 205 laps, but that is certainly no indication of the activity and the racing, close racing, that we have seen during the course of the evening. That was our shot from the pace car, and it looks like that this race is indeed being halted as the red and the checkered flags are being waved, and the SunTrust Indy Challenge is over. Ended early because of rain. They come by the stripe and complete 206 laps, and that is going to be it. Scott Dixon has won again in the IRL IndyCar Series. And a very disappointed team is with Gary Gerald.
Kevin Blanche down here with the Panther Racing team. You guys have got to be the most disappointed because it looked like you were coming, and did you think you had a chance to pull it out and win it?
Yeah, we had a good car there at the end. You know, the Pennzoil car, we got in a little accident there in the pit lane early in the race, and I think it took him that next stint to get it figured out, and it knocked the toe out quite a bit. But after that, he got the car handling pretty good, and we seemed to be better on longer runs, so we needed a 50, 60 lap run. I think we might have had something for him.
Aside from that incident in the pits, you would have been right up there all the way. But this is 2 races in a row where this team has really stepped up. How big of a confidence boost?
Oh, it's great. You know, I mean, we crashed the car last night and had to work all day putting it back together. That just shows you the quality of the guys on the team. You know, this car, we basically completely rebuilt this car, changed everything but the tub, underwing, and a side pod, and just went out and done a 250-lap leak check on her, and she come through pretty good.
Indeed she did. Bob?
Second consecutive win for Scott Dixon and his third in the 2003 series. The cars are coming into pit road, and of course Dixon will be making his way toward victory lane. Castro Neves and DeFerrin finish second and third, with Hornish fourth. Kanan will finish in fifth position, followed by Felipe Giaffoni. Kenny Breck, Dan Weldon gets a 8th place finish. Buddy Rice has a 9th, and Al Unser Jr. will finish in 10th position, the final car on the lead lap. To victory lane, Jack.
Well, it's a modified victory lane, so to speak, because of the inclement weather. Scott Dixon is pulled back into the garage area. The rain coming down pretty good, but this does not affect Scott Dixon one way at all. He is victorious for the 2nd consecutive win, 3rd of the season. He's got to get all his radio gear, the Hans device, all the safety device. And he gets out of the wrong side of the car. We're going to go over to that side. A little bit of a superstitious for you to get out on the right side of the car all the time, isn't it, Scott?
No, definitely not. I wanted that.
A little bit of gear here to get out. Well, it didn't rain on your parade tonight. Congratulations.
Definitely not. The guys did a great job. We just saved fuel the whole race, and hey, it came off. Unfortunately, it rained, but I think we had a very good car. Helio at the end there was starting to come close, so you know we had a bit of pressure, but the guys just did an awesome job.
Scott, when you arrived here for a test session, the first ever, you pulled up into this area and you thought the racetrack was what?
A go-kart track.
You don't think that anymore, do you?
Definitely not. It's been a lot of fun, you know, with the traffic out there. It's an awesome place to race.
Stay with us because we're going to have baseball tonight, not at the scheduled 10 o'clock Eastern time, but about 7 minutes from right now at 9:45. Here's Gary Gerald.
Tim Tindrick coming over to talk to drivers Helio Castroneves and Gilles de Farron. Helio finishes second, Gilles finishes third. What are you going to do about this guy Dixon? Because, man, he just dominated this night.
Man, he definitely did a fantastic job. My car was very good, but I think his car was just a little bit more well set up. The rain definitely came in the wrong time, but again, we're getting there. We're getting there. Don't worry. We're going to catch you guys.
Jill, how about your reaction to this bull ring? It's so tight, it's so busy. Tell us quickly about your night.
Well, it was a good race for us. I mean, like Elliot was saying, Scott was real fast particularly in the first stint. I was just kind of biding my time there with him, and then then we had a little problem on the pit stop. We lost the position to Elliot, but at the end of the race, we were all flat out. Elliot, I, and Dixon, just almost qualifying pace he was.
All right, great job, guys. They're on the podium, Bob.
Here are the final results. Now, Dixon has won 3 of his first 7 IRL starts. Elio Castroneves also did that when he joined the league. Now, here's the most amazing statistic to me. It's the first time ever that an IRL driver has led from start to finish in an IRL IndyCar Series event.
Here on a rainy pit road with Sam Hornish, the best Chevrolet, finishing 4th. And Sam, did it rain on your parade, or were you pretty happy with what happened down on pit road?
Oh, well, always like to see the checkered flag at the full race distance. I don't know if we would have got Scott, but I think we could have got a couple other guys. But, you got to stay out of trouble with these races, and we were doing what we had to on the track, pulled out of the pits. And
what happened on that pit stop? What happened between you and Giafone?
I mean, I got waved out, and, I don't know what happened. Obviously, it was something that usually doesn't happen because it's never happened before with myself and Panther Racing, and I think that it was just an unfortunate incident. 2 of us got together, and it hurt our chances of winning. But
well, he still came back in 4th, and I think the best way to put it is he said, tonight sure beats working at a fast food restaurant.
Here are the point standings. Tony Kanaan leads by 27 over Dixon, then Castroneves and DeFerrin. Kenny Brack and Allenser Jr. are tied for 5th position, just 60 points back of the lead. Coming up next here on ESPN, Baseball Tonight. And join us next Sunday, July 6th from Kansas City for the Kansas City Indy 300. You can see that on ABC live at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific. Thanks for joining us here at Richmond. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more information, log on to ESPN.com.